problems. I was gently waiting for you to let me speak. No problems. Yeah. So of course I'm at work, and probably not as prepared as everybody else here, but never mind. Never mind.
Anyway, Alexandra, thank you very much for being part of this symposium. Our discussion in Mediator experience is about your experience at the border. Definitely. Anyway, just having conversations with you is wonderful. So, but you are going to tell us about yourself, and then I'll just take a minute to just talk about what is coming up, kind of thing. So please, Alexandra, it's about you. As much as you want to tell us about yourself.
I don't know if it's only about me, but about also mediation and languages. But okay, hello everyone. I am Alexandra Wojtowicz. I am a French person with Polish parents. So let's start like this. And for today's session, and I'm also a mediator. After being a project manager in engineering for a lot of time, I realized that what brings people together is agree, understand each other, to be able to achieve goal together. So I discovered this kind of task is called mediation. So I am trying to dig into this topic since a few years now. And at the moment, I am trying to apply this posture, let's say, in a everyday life as a humanitarian worker. So I am working at the moment with an NGO in Poland, 12 kilometers from the Ukrainian border, with a team, quite a big team, working on in transit centers here near the border, where we have different programming. So this is what I'm doing. Who I am, I don't know. It's not about me, but why I'm here, maybe I have some ideas, is because you always tell me that I speak too many languages, which I'm not sure, because I always answer that I don't speak enough of them. But I guess it's one of the reasons, at least, why I'm here today. So thanks for inviting me here to participate in this symposium.
So let me just talk about what the symposium is. It is language and mediation. And of course, today's the last day, started on 15th. And today is the International Mother Language Day. So the idea was to close it on that day. And of course, we've had interesting sessions. They're all available on YouTube. And I also need to, for a minute, just put out the website, only because I'm actually, Alexandra, I feel that I think I have to go beyond these posts, social media posts, because like I said, how many can you see? You don't see too many. So rather I'm telling people, subscribe to the channel. You'll get to know when something is scheduled. You can come to this website. I'll try and put information here. So this is the one, what we're doing on the 24th, which is what is coming up. And of course, your social media connections. And this is mediatorvikram.com. I mean, I just put it out there. So World Mediation Circle, which of course we have to create them in Poland, France, and everywhere. Support part of it. This is where edutainment part things will come up here as to what's coming up. Newsletters there, LinkedIn newsletter, that also, if people subscribe to, you'll get to know what's happening. And of course, previous events and all, the lots of links. Now there are more than 500 videos. So it's easier coming here to see what these events were. So you can get the links from here. Like last year, you can get a link to the World Mediators Conference from here, and you'll get to see who the speakers were. You get a YouTube playlist. Then we had 31 speakers in the indigenous peoples and mediation. So you can click the playlist here, or you can see the speakers. So I've tried to put everything down here in an easy way, because going to YouTube might not be so easy. So that way. So that's about it, Alexandra. Now it's about you and language and mediation. Of course, you haven't told us how many languages you speak. People need to know that also. So please.
No, but I think mediators try to speak all the languages, no? Isn't it the conclusion of this whole symposium?
Language of the heart, Alexandra, language of the heart. It's the language of the heart, which I've been saying, all listening to the soul. That is where those languages are the ones we have to listen.
We have to find the new Esperanto, because Esperanto did not work out. So, there is another one which exists here forever, which has been existing forever. So, yeah. So how many is not the essence, because as I told you, it's not enough. So is not enough, because I don't speak your language, first of all, for instance. So, yeah, no, well, language and mediation is a great topic for. First of all, I was like, wow, I love these both topics, but how I'm going to talk about them. And I thought I will prepare myself a bit more. And of course, as usual, I haven't. But then I tried to think about the first mediation effect, like language in English is a single word for two different things in French, for instance. Like we have a French word. We say langage and langue, and one designates the system of talking, you know, all the systems that some nation, tribes, countries come up with to understand each other, while la langue is this the end of this thing. So the Chinese language, the English language, the French language, and so the result of what people come up together to be able to exchange. And I was like, oh, interesting. Interesting, the difference, because the first thing I told myself, like, but language is mediation. It's not language and mediation. It's like language is mediation, right? What is the difference here? Like, because yeah, it's our main property as human being to be able to invent some symbols, to be able to communicate, and then I tried to think, but how come that sometimes this language are helping us in mediation, but sometimes are not helping us at all? Because, you know, like I already was thinking of you, like, yeah, Vikram always tells me that I speak that many languages, fantastic. Yeah, but it doesn't solve all the problems at all. Not at all. You know what? And even for those who don't speak that many languages, I was looking for a proverb, you know, and I found one that I haven't finished to analyze, I think, which says, it's an Arab proverb saying, learn a language and you will avoid a war. Well, it was very appropriate for me at the moment, because I was like, hey, what is the language we need to learn to avoid the war, really? And is it about a language, langage, or a language, langue, as we said in French? And so I am with this question now, because I thought I will bring some ideas, but now I brought myself with many new questions. So it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult because what? Because maybe our topic is mediation when there is a conflict, right? Language is a fantastic tool. So language, English, French, Chinese, Hindi, Hindu, Pashto, all the languages are a fantastic mean to communicate with everybody. And I think also it's a beautiful mean to get to understand somebody's culture or somebody's, let's say, primary environment, this thing that makes you travel. And I love travel, so this is why I guess I love languages. This is why I could learn much more if I could and if I have time. So language is a fantastic thing to allow you to travel in somebody's somebody's word, somebody's representation of its reality, right? And this is something beautiful, and I think this is why I found another proverb which I like very much, which says that if somebody speaks only one language, he's one person, but one who speaks two languages is two people. It's a Turkish proverb. And so imagine how many people I am, how many person I am. It's very complicated. So I'm not sure it's helpful for mediation, but we'll see. What I want to say by this, that having this possibility to speak different languages for those who can is a great thing to be able to enter in somebody's world. But is it that useful when we're a mediator? Because we enter a word, but it doesn't mean we know how it works or how it, what are the rules of this word that somebody is using. And I'm thinking if it's maybe not helping that much to understand somebody's languages. So far, I never made a mediation in the language I don't know. I mean, I never had the opportunity to work with an interpreter or translator from a language with someone talking a language I absolutely don't know. So I don't know this feeling of doing a mediation between the parties I don't understand at all. But why I'm talking about this is because I remember a teacher, from an experienced mediator, talking to us at some point that, you know, sometimes you don't need to understand, you just need to listen the music of someone who is telling someone. You don't need to understand the word. And it's true. It's true when you see, just hear something is repeating. I'm sure, okay, it's the last day, so I guess everybody has told already a lot of clever things before now, but I'm sure you already discussed here about the repetition. Do you need to understand the repetition to understand there is a repetition? Not really, right? So it's a lot about music, language, and talk is a lot about music. And I love also the music, and I love also this idea, and I would love to try a mediation with people I don't understand to have this experience of how do you get other information of how the parties in conflicts get to disagree. So thinking of the language of the music, I think, yeah, music is completely universal, right? I mean, as long as you hear, of course. But so everyone can hear the music of the language, even if he or she doesn't understand it. So so I'm like, we should be careful about understanding or thinking we understand the words of the people speaking, right? And I think this is all here about what mediation is. It's like, not because we understand the meaning of a word, we understand the purpose of the people using this word rather than another one. And so this is the whole magic about language. So what can we say? I think that language is a means to facilitate our discussion, but it could be also fool our understanding of what is happening, and so we should be careful about the other languages. So the other one we use as a speech, but we have the whole layer of other languages we are using, you know, like the famous, I don't know, body language. Yeah, the body language, or the energy language, you know, like the silence language, right? Well, there is no music, no sound, but it always means something different. How do we do that? But how do people do this kind of thing? So I love thinking that language, I mean, the spoken language, but I have no enough knowledge of English to precise my meaning, but so English, French, you know, Pashto, Ukrainian, Russian, all these languages are just a part of all the language a human being uses when he's talking to someone else. So thinking about this language and mediation is just a little ingredient of our mediation observation as a mediator. Because if we don't just get to understand what is said, then I think we get lost. This language, this spoken language, this speech is useful, in fact, when there is no conflict, because then you can convey messages, you can exchange information, you can agree. But when there is a conflict, it appears that no matter what we say, we don't understand anything of what the other say, even if we can know this language, we can speak the same language forever. It can be our mother tongue, our native language, but we don't understand each other. So what is it about? No, seriously, when we think about it, it's crazy, right? It's completely crazy to be able to speak the same language and don't understand each other. Yeah. So I think this kind of observation just help us again realize that language is just a small part of our communication with each other, right? And where does it bring to me? It means another, from looking from another aspect, I would say, maybe we don't need this language to communicate, right? And for this, I could even give you an example, because one of the languages I don't speak, Vikram, is Portuguese, for instance. And I remember once I went to Brazil on holiday in this beautiful, great country, and I went there alone. But I like to talk and I like to meet people. And I sat on the beach next to a local lady, a local girl, you know. And you know what? We spent the whole afternoon together. She knew nothing about English, okay? And I knew like 3 words of Portuguese to be polite as a tourist, okay? But we spent the whole afternoon like somehow talking. I wish I could have taped it, recorded it so that I knew now as a mediator what I was doing to understand this lady and her in exchange. But we spent a great afternoon. I want to say talking, but obviously we were not talking, right? and had a nice time. So I think it's really crazy, because to me, it's really a proof that there is much more than the words we use. It's more about the intention of what we want to convey, right? The words, of course, help us to be more precise, because of course we were not discussing philosophy with this girl or doing a mathematical demonstration and stuff like this, of course. But still, we spent a really great time. I remember until today. So yeah. So language is just one of our tools. This is one of my mean, and so what? And so for languages, yeah, when there is a conflict then that we try to resolve, we have to go deeper, beyond what is said, beyond what is shown, beyond everything. And this is something so we cannot learn. I don't know, or how we can learn. This is this, third language you started with today's session. I don't know if somebody is clever enough to make it in simple words, but I don't know. It's probably not me, that's for sure. So, but I love this idea that there is something at the end of the day that is much, much simpler than what we think to understand each other. And this is great. This is why it's great to have such meeting like you organize with people from all over the world, because we all have our system. We come from all different countries with our all imagination of what is mediation. All this, for instance, I'm saying mediation because this is our main topic of meeting each other, but of our understanding of word. But still, we can make it. But because we have this will, this will of, I don't know, circles and symbols, and this is great. So yeah, in fact, language and mediation, I think the conclusion would be language, not conclusion, but language is mediation, or mediation is language, but in all the various manner that we have to discuss. So with word, but with the body, with our energy, our intention, and our goodwill to communicate. So yeah, this is what I would say shortly on this topic.
Well, interesting. I think what you started off the aspect about knowing different languages and you become different people, that kind of thing. Like that's why, look, Gabriela did her session in English and in Spanish, and see both of them. She's a different person. I was telling her I'll have to learn Spanish to get to know this Gabriela.
Yeah.
Similarly, someone has done her thing in Persian and she's also done in English. So it actually is a different person. I mean, and sometimes I think maybe that person gets hidden somewhere because maybe that language is not something that you're so familiar with. And so that's interesting. I think that part of it as people itself, whom are you really talking to? I think that by itself is something that we have to.
Exactly. To which part of me are you talking to? And I completely agree with what you said. I also had a friend tell me, I used to have a sport activity where we had some Italian people attending, and I was doing the translation and speaking Italian. And one of my French friend who didn't know I was speaking this language, like he said, makes you look completely different when you speak Italian. You know, you're a totally different person. So which one do you prefer? Which, like, you know, is there a better one or not? Well, you know, and I'm sure it's so physical because I also have a good friend of mine who is an interpreter, Polish-French translator. So he speaks both languages much better than me, for sure, for sure. But really, it's a physical job, you know, when you've done after a day of translation, at the end of the day, you're completely physically devastated as after having done gym all day long, because it's completely physical. So it's really, yeah, communication is really a physical commitment with another person, because even this music we were discussing a bit earlier, coming from the different languages, comes from a physical effort from our. I wish I had I have a French friend who is doing music and teaching, you know, music and pronunciation for singers, you know, lyric singers. Like, you know, so much about all this voice instruments of ours we have, and it's great to you know, singing in German is not like singing in Italian operas or French opera. Each of this language requires different muscle activation and stuff to be able to give the feeling of the text that has been submitted by the composer, right? So it's a huge physical, not only emotional, not only a sensible work, it's also a whole physical job from the singer, but also from someone who speaks another language, to be able to make it happen with the right intention, or the intention wanted by the composer of the music. So yeah, language is a real word, because yeah, if we speak different languages, the only thing you said, like to which Alexandra are you talking to, or to which Vikram am I talking to? Just this is already a point of possible misunderstanding, right? Because if at some point I learn your language, then we'll have other discussions. Can you believe that? It will be twice as much better. So.
But what the colonizer did was gave us English as our language, which we use. For me, actually, it doesn't make any difference. The language that you say Hindi is my language. Actually, for me, both of them are my languages, because that the colonizer did that in terms of education and everything. It gave that. But in terms of the muscles that we were talking about, they say 100 muscles are used for speech. Can you imagine how complex it is? Yeah, that's how it's so complex.
Sure, I'm sure it is. It's really, even, singing or speaking is such a miracle. You look at kids doing their first, words, stuff that's different. It's we're all expecting this first time there when they put some muscle together to make a sound that reminds us something. We understand. My goodness, it's just crazy, right? So, we make a lot of efforts to get our symbols ready to be able to be understood by the others. So it's that complex that it's for sure why we need mediators when it's getting more complicated for sure, for sure.
But I like that's the thing about this woman in Brazil that you were talking to. So I mean, just thinking that you were communicating. In some way you were communicating without speaking. I mean, okay, maybe you were speaking, but it wasn't, there were words, but not something that each could understand. But as long as communication happens, I think the important thing being how you communicate and what are the larger means of communication, which, look, for me, Alexandra, you'll keep hearing this heart, soul, spirituality word. I keep using that part, that connection. So I think that doesn't get discussed because I don't think there are gauges to tell you what's really happening here. How did that happen?
Yeah.
What connection was made there? How did you understand without the person saying something? The sounds of silence. I think Mary also had something about the fact that about what Rumi was saying about the silence part of it. So I think, these are things which I'm sure there are, of course, studies keep happening, but I think it's more an experience. It's not really the theory part of it. It's an experience.
Completely agree. Communication is an experience. Yeah, because the message you convey to someone, if you convey to someone else, can be completely understood the same way. But how did we do with this movie when there was no sound? We still get to understand.
Andrea actually had Charlie Chaplin. She was talking about Charlie Chaplin and about the fact that he thought that sound in movies was not going to last too long. he was the way that's the way he thought movies were going to be. So they were managing and people were enjoying it. And people today also, if they watch Charlie Chaplin, they still enjoy it. So it can be done without sound.
It can be. See, it's magical. So it's a lot about efforts. So communication, it really means it's an effort, right? It's not something really natural. Because the connection is something. I don't know if it's an effort. It's a good question. Okay, question for myself. But this communication with languages, it's an effort because we are producing so-called symbols, right? So we have to think which symbol, why this one rather than this one. And this is so creative when you think about it, that that it's so easy to understand why sometimes we can't understand each other, right? I love this example of, please, could you go and buy some bread, and I will bring you a baguette, you will bring me a parota, a naan or something, somebody else will bring me some black bread, and, all our discussions are about misunderstanding. I love it. From one side, I love it because it's so rich. It means we are so creative, so full of invention. But yeah, when we stop wanting to understand each other, then it's more complicated to deconstruct. So this is why, of course, prevention is really important, and to try and to prevent from getting too far in a misunderstanding or in a conflict. So maybe this is a sense of this proverb: learn a language and you'll avoid the war. Maybe it's not so much about learning, but it's about how to use a language, right? Because we all speak something, but it's how you use a language, why you use a language. This proverb, really, I found it yesterday or something, and I will have to meditate on this because what makes so sometimes it's helping, that language is helpful because it's a chance to be able to explain something in somebody's language, but sometimes it's not helpful at all. So
there was another
magical.
but I'd also, I was showing what Chat GPT generated for me, but I also put out a post on this one also. If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart.
Yeah, of course.
It's attributed to Nelson Mandela. Some places you'll see that maybe he did not say it, but that doesn't matter. The main thing is that this aspect is something important. So this part, if you want to maybe comment on it, throw some light on it.
I like this one because, you know, I'm often asked, it probably is the same for you with what you explained before, but do I feel more rather French, rather Polish? You know, this question I never know how to answer because I speak both languages same way. But my mother tongue is Polish for sure because my mom is Polish. But I guess I've been raised in France, and I guess I get more of the codes of French. So I guess maybe French is also a mother tongue in a different way. So it's as if I had different mothers. Is it possible? Yeah. So
that's the only thing that's not possible.
Are you sure? That's all different questions. Difficult questions. That's a difficult topic. Come on, mediation is a difficult topic. But difficult, complex, I would say, rather than difficult, complex topic. Yeah. So yeah, it's true. It depends, I guess, how close you are to this vocabulary, to this grammar, to the systems that make the language you're speaking. So yeah, because my mother tongue, seriously, it's a question for myself. Either I have to, seriously, or I don't know, you know, like, yeah, so the environment is very much impacting this thing. And I will also comment it from my experience here, if I hear in my job here at the border, because so every day I speak Polish, Ukrainian, if I'm Russian, or here Ukrainian. I don't speak Ukrainian, for instance, but I understand a lot of it. But I speak in Russian with the people who can't speak Polish, for instance, and I observed myself changing languages without even noticing, like in the same sentences, depending on who is making efforts, because sometimes, you know, Ukrainian people try to learn Polish, so they start with their own language, but finish with Polish or mix it. So we all, like, I'm making fun, I'm saying the fun thing of this word will create a new language, like the Polkruish, I'm saying, like there is a Polkruish language, you know, because we all come up with different things, and you know, like how the environment has an impact or on which language you're using and how you're using it. So yeah, this is what I would add to this. Maybe if I as a comment to this proverb from Nelson Mandela, that yeah, it's also about in which environment you find yourself. Yeah, and this is also, I think, what I discussed once with you, that depending on the environment in where you are, impact very much the quality of your dialogue, right? So yeah, so if you're in a war situation or we're in your peacetime, the way you speak, the way you, the intention or the energy you put, I can clearly, now I can speak from experience now, and you can imagine yourself when when you think about it, but then when you experience it, it's a bit different. I can see that, you know, depending on how it's quiet outside or not, how the way you're talking to the others is different. So I would also, it impacts, you know, the connection to your heart, yeah.
But this thing you're talking about, the mix of languages, thing is that in the northern part of India, Delhi is in the northern part of India, there were invaders coming in, there was a lot of trade happening from various parts. So I would say we speak Hindi, but actually it's not really pure Hindi. So we've got Arabic influence, we've got Urdu influence, we've got Punjabi influence in it. So it's a mix, and that's the language we've created. And we call it Hindi, but if I really hear the pure Hindi, there'll be words that I will be not, there won't be, I mean, it's not something I would use normally. Yes, I might understand some, I might not even know the meaning of some, but it's really pure. It's like even in English, there's a pure, there might be there was a Shakespearean English at one point of time. Now that doesn't exist. It's called got diluted. So I think language itself, we've put it into certain, say, call it English or call it Hindi or whatever. But is that the pure language? I don't know. I don't know about Polish. I don't know about how Polish is that.
As muted, but of course it has, and of course this is the magic of languages. It's that they are not stable. Yeah, well, how we invent words, because every year each dictionary gets new word inside their inside. So it's a total living system, and I love about this. This is where I bought myself once a book about called something like the traveling words. You know how a word in French language. It was about French language, but. So how it happened that we have words coming from Arabic, from Italian, from Spanish, from Indian, from something. And it's so rich and beautiful to see how the human exchanges have an impact on this, either commercial, either historical, either, commercial, for all kind of reasons, impacts the way we are using words and languages. So it's all about this richness. We have such a word for all the rich exchange we have among people that make a language. And the more we mix, the more we have chances to understand also each other. But it requires us not to be afraid of the other. So this is our challenge.
I think words traveling. There's one word, kitab. Kitab is a word. Of course, they use it in Persian, also Hindi. Also, it means book. Kitab means book, so they use it there. Okay. I found references of using kitab in some parts in Africa, some places in South America also. So it's really traveled. Southeast Asia, definitely you find that reference. It's really interesting that a word can go all around.
It's wonderful. Even I came up with something very, all languages are put into families, so in the European languages, all the Asian languages and stuff. And once I had the opportunity to travel to Nepal, and I love very much. And, I quite learned a lot of words when I went there. After 2 weeks, I could make little sentences. I was so happy about this. And at the time, I even learned to count until 10. And then I realized that the number 5 in Nepali, it was pat, I remember, patch. It was very close to the 5 number in Polish, which is pięć. Can you believe? So I said, oh yes, we're a great family. Poland and Nepal is just so close. We're like,
And Hindi it's panch. Panch.
With M.
Panch. And it is a
panch. See, so pięć and panch, it's very close. See, exactly. It's from I love it. I love this idea that it came up someone from a single something.
One, just put your question in the chat, because your sound, there's a problem in the echoing of your sound because you have 2 devices on. So just put the question in the chat. I'll take it up. I'll tell you, in terms of words traveling. Now, there was that symposium 2 years back. There was someone from New Zealand. Yeah, if you just put the chat in the chat, I'll have. So there was someone from New Zealand, and he was talking about the Maoris, and he used a word which the Maoris used when they came. The word called man. It's like respect, self-respect, man, samman kind of thing. So that is a word which we have in Hindi. And that was the most surprising part. It meant the same. It meant the same there. So that was like crazy. It was like, I mean, imagine the Maoris going there, landing up there and using a word which we use here.
It's fantastic, it makes me feel we're all brothers. We tend to forget about this, from brothers and sisters. We tend to forget about this, but when simple experiences make you remember this, I love it. I
think, Alexandra, what's happened is there's been politics around language, and that is where the issue lies.
Maybe.
Yeah. Because I mean, that's something which then you try to put it into boxes because you feel, I mean, whatever politicians will keep doing that. But here in India, our states were divided on the basis of language. So now there was one particular state which felt that Hindi, because there was an attempt that let's have a national language. Today we don't have that. We have 22 official languages as such. So there was an attempt on Hindi. They said, no, we're not going to accept Hindi because our language is purer. It has a more divine kind of a base or whatever. So they actually stayed away from Hindi and they would not speak Hindi at all. It went to the other side because politics. Okay, one is you don't know the language. The other is I will not even talk to someone who talks in that language. It reached in some places reach that level also. So that politics around language, I think, is something that definitely affects communication for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Even the situation I am in at the moment, some people don't want to speak Russian, although with some people from citizens of the same country, although they are Ukrainian but can't speak Ukrainian. Can you believe that? So it's all difficult topics. It's true.
Yeah, because I think that's important, that we need to definitely, when you're communicating, ideas to communicate. It's not about there's language supremacy which happens. That language supremacy is also an issue, which I mean, the word went around that the French have that. They used to keep saying that the French have that. I didn't experience that. I didn't feel that when I went to France, but there was this whole thing that people kept saying, no, the French will not talk to you if you don't talk to them in French and all that. So that language supremacy is also an issue. And I don't know, I mean, in terms of mediation, if there is something that you've experienced there, you can, of course, give us some example. But Juan had something that he wanted to say. Juan, you want to type it out? You want to say something? You can unmute yourself. Yeah, I got it. Now you can unmute yourself. If you click on the unmute, you have to click on the unmute. He's okay. He has a little bit of a system. His session was yesterday. There was some system issue. You just have to press that unmute button and it's come. He doesn't know how. It's okay. So, but now I think, Alexandra, the point is, yes, the point is the aspect of mediation itself. What do you understand from? We've spoken about language, and then to connect the two, what do you understand of mediation? What is mediation for you?
What is mediation for me? Is translation from this language of one part to the other. So this is why mediation is language. Is kind of is being a translator to. It's my understanding of mediation, because everybody each part in its own position uses its own words, its own systems, his own representation of the situation, and is not ready to move from this way of presenting them. And so the role of the mediation and of the mediator is try to come up with different words, different images to help the other parts to try and see it and understand it. So yeah, it's about how to say, awakening this creativity we were talking about previously. Like, we have so many solutions to convey a message. So it's about trying to help each part in explaining their ideas, their position in a different way, so that it can maybe not, but understood by the other side. So, and for this, a mediator needs to use the tool of the language, of the speech, but not only, all the other creative tools we are using to connect with the creativity of the other parts. So yeah, I think this is my understanding of mediator's job, is to translate, to translate. Not to translate because Juan wants to say something. I feel so bad.
What problem thing is that he's got two devices. One, just what you do is exit one device, just log out from one device, just leave one device, and I'll ask you to unmute that, because I think your audio is on. I have two out here. There are two out here. You'll have to just leave one. Okay, well, let me just get the other one out from here. Let's see if it works or not. But look, the thing is that this aspect of energy and connectivity, and more beyond words and beyond that, is there any experience there where you felt that there was communication happening on a different level altogether?
One is unmuted.
Finally, okay. Now, I just wanted to stress 2 points of view. The first one, you stressed the importance, and Vikram too, of silence. I think in mediation, silence is a very important instrument, as it is in mediation itself. No? And the second issue I appreciated is that one is translating all the time, even with people of your own culture and language. But then translation, and I appreciate what you said, Alexandra, because you speak several languages, and me too. And I translate poetry, just amateur. And when you translate poetry, you find that you have to find not just the exact word, but the word the other person is intending, but it's not saying. So, and that's, I think, that's one of the most beautiful clues in mediation. Somebody says something, but the deepness of his thought, he couldn't say it, and we help them to say it. So that's why I appreciate so much what you're speaking, and that's it.
Thank you for that. And yeah, translating poetry to me is huge. I don't know, huge thing. I was attending. I love to do doing this, hearing people speaking Arabic that I don't speak at all, but with this language which is so rich in nuances and stuff, talking about how much time it took them to translate some poetry from, Persian countries, the famous Hafiz and stuff, and it's an infinite word. It really shows the richness of that words, but the music. They were talking about the music. I couldn't translate this way because I heard this, but I heard this beyond the sound of the word itself being said. I felt it was so beautiful, and it's exactly what you're saying here. So. Vikram was asking is if I have such an experience, I can't come up with one like now. It's not coming at the moment, but yeah, we say much more than what we effectively say by producing a sound, and I love this idea. It's about really, we should invite musicians to the symposium.
Yeah. but let me check if Mary and Ken are there, if they want to ask something, because I can see them there, but I don't know whether yes, they're there. Mary's there. Yes, Mary.
Yes, I just thought it was really interesting. And Alexander, Ken had to go to class. He had a class he had to go to, so he had to leave. But I thought what you offered and your ability with languages, it's so impressive. I am taking Spanish every night and have for now a couple of years, and then before we ever go to any country, we always learn enough words so we don't sound like selfish people who don't care and respect the language. But you clearly started learning languages at an early age, which is what's most important. And I think and I loved what you talked about, the power of connection that can happen even beyond language. And I thought that was really good also. No, I thought what you offered was really good and very insightful. And I'm always so glad to hear people talk about the soul of language and the spiritual part of our work, because I think that is there. It's a part of it. And Juan, I would say to you, I am a scientist too. So I always, through all of my writing, I always am citing, what the research shows, because I think as mediators, sometimes we don't look at, well, what is it that really works and what is the research telling us? I think that's an important element. So muchas gracias, mi amigo.
But I think one thing that we haven't discussed is, because we call it mother language or mother tongue, why do we do that? It's not because it's not that the mother spoke it, or is it because you spoke it when you were a child? What are the neural connections that take place as a child? Is it that because you start thinking in that language, that's why it's called that language? Because if you think in it and you connect with it a little more. So that I think we haven't explored so much. So I think if Mary, you want to throw some light on that part?
Oh, I wish I knew the answer. I don't know, but I do know that it probably, and I don't know the derivation of that, but that's a very good question. I wish I had insight as to why we call it the mother language.
Yeah.
Other than I think probably if you looked at it from a child development standpoint, children learn their language stereotypically and primarily from mothers or grandmothers. And my guess is it probably flowed from that historic piece.
Yeah, Juan was saying something. Yeah, Juan.
I wanted to comment something about what you spoke before, because we can be calm, because artificial intelligence won't ever be able to substitute self-awareness, and self-awareness is the clue of mediation and any social relation. And I was surprised yesterday because on TV I saw a guy who called his computer, his program, to write a paper about two musicians, have nothing to do, one classical, the other rock. And you know that the computer wrote a full paper, well written, with good data, with good ideas. I was surprised, and as I'm a writer, I really got very, very annoyed about that. But no, it's what you say, self-awareness. Nobody will substitute it. And mediation, nobody will be substituted, because that's an ability which no machine will ever be able to do.
But Juan, that was what I was asking Mary also. The point is that what does mediation mean to you? You have to start from there, because in certain kinds of mediation, is that self-awareness even coming out? Is it really part of it? What is really happening there? So we've actually broadly, we just use mediation, but it's really the elephant and the blind man situation. So what it means to you might be different from what means to Mary or me or Alexandra. There's lots happening there in terms of mediation. So I think a common understanding of mediation itself is not there. And because certain aspects maybe do not require it. I mean, you have, of course, there have been softwares for quite some time in relation to negotiation, but in terms of just interaction between people, how much of that human touch, how much of the human being is required in that, or is already there, we don't know, because we don't have access to those rooms. We need, if you give us access there, like I said, put EEGs and the machines to observe the whole thing. We don't know what's really going to come out. Maybe something interesting comes out from there. I mean, yes, Alexandra.
I'm not sure about that.
Maybe
I'm not sure, because self-awareness is what I use in any mediation, even it's multi-party with 400 people, or a business mediation, or an international mediation. If there's no self-awareness, for me, you don't advance.
Yeah, so
you
that's
get
why
nowhere. You can negotiate.
No, that's what I'm saying. The people that I bring in, the people I bring in do have the same understanding that you have, or Mary has, or Alexandra. We have the same understanding of mediation. But I'm saying there is a world out there which exists, and I'm not going to fight it. There must be a purpose for it. There must be doing something good there. It exists, but let it exist. But there's another world on the other side which also exists. Let it also exist, and we have to create our own worlds.
Vikram, you're getting people around you who think in that way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I choose that. It takes.
Exactly.
I don't like to use it and say that, but I do say it. I curate curate. That sounds good about people. But
it's a good word. It's curate is a good word. Absolutely.
Alexandra was saying something. Yes, Alexandra.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that self-awareness is a word, and what I like to think about mediation, because as you said, what's happening in the room we don't know, is like being an artist, right? It's like, it's so individual. It's like, you know, you can give the same colors, the same brushes to one artist and to another one, you will never get the same thing. And this is where I think we have so much also creativity and responsibility also in that matter, because the word we choose, for instance, to reformulate, to rephrase, to translate, will be different from the one that another mediator will choose for any other reason, because he's different, because he has another background, another sensitivity, another self-awareness, another everything. And so yeah, I told a lot about creativity, and maybe because I wish I was an artist, but I think maybe this is the part where we can put a bit of it in our in this activity. Is like, really, it's not like, you know, there is always this discussion, is mediation a job, an activity or something, but it's kind of what the word, it's like art craft, you know, it's something you build, it's something you transform, it's something you experience. It's not something you learn. I mean, you learn. Sure, you can learn. Of course, you can. It's like the brushes. There are some techniques, you know, in the painting. But at the end of the day, what makes the artist? It's not exactly the brushes nor the colors he uses. Is how he does it, with which intention he does it. And I like to believe we are some kind of artists. Yeah.
Yes, I think that this is where I'll just connect this to this.
Alexandra, that's it.
Yeah, I'll connect it to this, that when they say that people say that we'll make mediators, and same thing with artists. Can you really make an artist? Can you really make a mediator? There's so much more happening, which is, of course, I discussed enough. I won't get into it. Mary's saying something. Yes, Mary, you're saying something.
I was going to add a piece of research to this, because you were asking, what do people do out there? About, I think it's 2 years ago now, Galton, Love, and Weiss did a study, and they based the study out of 2 previous studies that were done in the United States, but they did an international study. The first one was done out of the Maryland court system, and then the American Bar Association did one, and then Galton, Love, and Weiss did an international study. And they said, what kind of mediation are people doing? But they also wanted to know from people who were in mediation. In this study, they studied a lot. What kind of mediation do people prefer? And what the first 2 studies found is that people prefer the kind of mediation we've been talking about, the one that is self-awareness, and that people listen and they deal with emotions, and there is compassion, and there's sensitivity about culture and awareness and language and all of those things, that those of us that gravitate to someone as wise as Vikram, that echoes in our souls. But what they found, and then what they found internationally, is that a large number of mediators today are moving into this very prescriptive, and a lot of mediators aren't even meeting with the parties anymore. They never have the parties meet together. They talk to them separately, but they never let them come together, because they don't know how to deal with emotions or how to deal with a relationship. And so they just deal with them, you know, I call it a shuttle diplomacy mediation, but they talk with each other. And what's interesting is that people in mediation don't like it, but attorneys still think that that's the best way to do it, because it's quicker and they don't have to deal with relationships. So Vikram, when you said there are a lot of people out there who who have a different model, you're absolutely right. And they're the ones who are most afraid of this GPT and artificial intelligence, because that's very easily prescriptive and done through AI. A very, let's solve your problem, I'll just deal with each of you individually. That's very easy to program. This other kind of approach, it's harder to program, it's harder to do that. Just like it's harder to do it in therapy, it's harder to do it in mediation also. So the people that are most afraid of this artificial intelligence are the ones who move to this very short prescriptive model. So I think it'll all come out in the wash. I think, and people say, well, what do you say? I say, well, what if you try a different kind of mediation, and then you won't get replaced by AI?
Exactly.
Let me say a word, please, Vikram.
Yes,
You know, I share your idea, Mary Lou. Look, a book written by Andres Oppenheimer, he's in CNN and in Miami. He said that in the future, the works that cannot be substituted by computers are mediation, psychology, psychotherapy, teaching, and the oldest profession on the world. 4 professions. And I think that's it. And but I ask you, Mary Lou, I would love to read that investigation you're talking about.
But
What's the name? You remember?
Let me put it in the, I'll put it in the chat for Vikram.
Yes, thank you.
But now what we have to do is actually, let's just look. Juan is also, he's a poet, but let's just see what Chat GPT does for us. So let's do it real time. Let's see how it is. Write a poem on language and mediation. Let's see what it does. Because let's use it. So this is real time. This is real time. Okay, this is how fast it writes a poem now. So let's read the poem. Does it sound good to us?
Let me read. Let's read it.
In every word, a world unfolds, a universe of meaning, bright and bold. Language is a lens through which we see the beauty of life in all its complexity. Through words, we tell stories, both old and new. We share our thoughts and hearts. We bridge the gap between you and me and find a common ground where we can be. Language is a mediator, a bridge between different cultures and traditions unseen. It helps us understand, appreciate, and learn the diverse perspectives that we discern. With language, we can heal and unite, break down walls, and overcome the divide. It gives us the power to create and innovate and express ourselves with passion and grace. So let us cherish the gift of language with all our might and use it to spread love, peace, and light. For in every word we speak or write, as a part of this is real time stuff. Writing poems. What else do you?
Let me comment, Vikram. That's prose divided in sectors. As if it would be a poem. It's prose.
No, you can ask it to write whatever you want. You give me the. Let's YouTube. What do you want us to do? What to write? I actually wanted to give the keynote speech to the symposium also, but Ken won't like it. When Ken comes in, I'll ask it to do the keynote speech also.
When you proposed that, I was entering in panic. I write poetry. Imagine if a computer writes it better.
No, let's do. I'll tell you what. Well, let's do something. Let's ask you to write a poem on language and mediation in a style of a poet that you like. Which poet do you like? Is there a particular poet?
Ungaretti.
You have to give me the spelling.
Oh well, I write it.
Yeah.
Umbare.
One sec. We're going a little fast. I'm not so fast to type. In the style of, give me the now, please. When the style of
Umbaretti.
UMBAR.
I wrote it in the chat.
Okay, so let me just see. Okay, Ungaretti. It's Ungaretti.
Ungaretti.
He writes very short and very precise.
Okay, we'll get to know now. It'll take 1 second. Now let's put it up there. Okay, let's see. Because we're doing language and mediation. Otherwise, we can always write. Let's see. But does it sound familiar to you?
God.
He heard us talking about music. Seriously. No, he's not just reading what you're typing, he's hearing us. No kidding. Oh my God.
So it's interesting. Now tell me, how do it, artificial intelligence you call it, but I don't see any issue in terms of putting things in place.
That's not the style of Ungaretti. But anyway, the computer is quite intelligent. I have to recognize.
But one thing, Mary, I would also, we did not discuss, you were talking about how people have become less empathetic and all that part of it that you were talking about. I think the issue that I've noticed, which is what I'm trying to work on through the mediation circles, is I think communities themselves broke down at some stage. And what is the reason for it? Is there optimum size of a community which stays together. And the moment it goes beyond that, does it start breaking up? So I think maybe you have to create those smaller communities, which is where this World Mediation Circle, create mediation circles in every community. And that community size of it can be whatever you want to, because like I said, here, the world that I'm creating, my little bubble that is, it's my size. I create it as much as it works properly. If it's not working properly, there are issues there. I get to know that, okay, community larger than this, these things come up there. So I think that part of it, I think, is also a role for mediators to actually strengthen communities. And then there will be, I think, in relation to even conflict resolution, I say dispute resolution, but I think that it's somewhere there also, I think some connections will come there. I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
I think size is a part of it, but I think it's stress. I think large communities can exist if there isn't a lot of stress. I think you put stress in any size community, that's going to be the variable that causes conflict, and it's going to come out in all sorts of ways, through bias, through finding ways how people are different and attacking them. I think it's the stress on the system, whether the stress has to do with economic stress or there's like what happened in Turkey, all of the things that have happened in different, war, any kind of stress in the system is going to cause that, cause more conflict. And the stress may be anything from economic to personal, probably spiritual. But I think the size is a variable, but I think the stress in the system, whenever you throw stress into it, now it's churned up. Now it's going to be there. And mediators, I like to believe the fact that we have more mediators and different in communities and ways of working together. I think that's important. But even as mediators, we need to be better at working together.
I think the other thing that I'm looking at is that, the fact that we're trying to, of course, create that circle. I think within the circle itself, to be able to, I don't know, I'm looking at, of course, schools, of course, as communities, to not teach them anything. I want to bring out those people identify those who have that mindset in those schools, in those communities. So it's not really saying that, okay, we've come with something to you and that's the most difficult thing for some people to do, that, oh, we are bringing something to you. Instead, I'm just saying, let's create that around people who already are there, trusted in whatever way they're already doing this, and build it from there. And then I think the role of those people, the larger role for them, to create spaces where people can have conversations. Like this space that I've created is just for people to have conversations. Similarly, everyone creates those spaces where they can have those conversations, and a space which is different from politics, advocacy, and activism. Those spaces exist. Again, like I said, I don't fight against whatever. The systems exist. There must be whatever reason to it. But this space, I don't think exists in communities where people will just come and just have objective conversations. And that's where the mediator comes in, to be able to facilitate those conversations. So that's the idea behind those circles, to have spaces like that. Safe space, as Andrea keeps telling me that you've created a safe space. So basically just people creating those safe space. And that's my thought. You people, please give me thoughts on it. It's a work in progress. I also don't know where it's going to go, but these are thoughts. So each of you have to give me your thought on this. So Mary, of course, is going to start, and then Juan, and then Alexandra.
I will, only because Mohammed, and who was the person who led to the Muslim religion, he believed that so strongly that in every mosque there is a room for people to have those conversations. And he felt that was so important. Now, does it get manifest in the religion today and all the people? Well, none of our world religions, and I've studied all of them, none of our world religions, at the very heart, they all believe in having those conversations. They all believe in peace and understanding, and we all work together. But that gets lost in the translation of the different ways it gets manifest in the different forms, and as the religion it takes different forms, and in the States, it has different, manifestations, and it's grown to something so totally different. But I think that's an excellent idea, and know that that's at the heart of all the religions. And I just think I think that that's an excellent idea. I think we haven't gotten there yet, but I do believe through training more people in mediation, that they learn, and then they pass that on to their families and friends, and that whole spirit of listening to each other with compassion and respecting each other, and honoring the power of language and what that can do for each other. I think that gets communicated, and then we change an individual at a time, and that communities can change from that.
Well, maybe I need the multiplier effect, because it has to be. So because I'm saying that people with that mediator mindset who are already there are beyond all these things about the politics of religion and the politics of language and all those things. That's where for me, those are the people with the mediator mindset. And
me too.
If you bring them out, I'm telling you, it'll be a multiplier effect. 1,000 each, 1,000 is a million. So that's. So Juan, any thoughts on this?
No, nothing more. Thank you for inviting me.
Alexandra, any thoughts on this? Or in general, you want to conclude? Because what I'll do is then we have 10 minutes for the next session. Maybe I'll go and eat something because it's dinner time. So you can conclude, and then we'll meet after at 10 o'clock, which is about 14 minutes from now. So you want to
and how long it's going to go afterwards?
30 minutes for that learnings and key takeaways session, and then 10:30 Ken Cloke session. That's after
we finish the activity.
Symposium will be finished. So this session I'll close. I'll go quickly eat something, come back. We'll have a half an hour session on learnings and key takeaways. And Mary has sent some things which I have put the links in the chat. So please download that, because the moment this session ends, that also goes away. So please. Okay.
Alexandra and Marilu, I thank you very much.
Thank you. I sent some Facebook invitations to Alexandra, you, and to Juan. So please, if you feel like connecting, I went ahead and sent you a friend request. So we can stay connected.
I write my email in the chat.
In any case, all the posts.
The conclusion is very easy. It's the wish to connect, the will to connect. This is the conclusion, I think.
And I try my best, Alexandra. I give everyone's LinkedIn profile on the posts. I give Facebook profiles on the post. But if I don't have them, I don't have them.
You're
I'm also not
fantastic at doing this.
I keep telling people. Yeah,
so please, and keep doing this social network thing. You feel a bit, bored when you say it at the beginning, but it's because you're doing it. We are here. Okay, it's not as fast as you would like. Well, it's our fault. It's not yours. Okay, so please just keep doing it, please. Voilà.
So you want to conclude your session, Alexandra? Anything that you want to conclude on, close on?
Again, conclude. No, oh my God. No, well, language and mediation. No, not more about this intention of connection. This is what we need to take care of as mediator, to try and reveal or enlighten or awaken this will of connection when it's lost. And thanks to languages of all kinds, I think this is what I would say. And this is what we need to try and do more and more, as you say, developing circles or whatever other shape. But this one is very harmonious, so it's good to give the power, to give back the power of dialogue in a good way. I would say in a heart way, full of heart way.
Good, wonderful thoughts, Alexandra. So thank you very much. And I'll see you in the next 12 minutes. You people can stay here. I mean,